Shabbat, Tov leodot laAdonai, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר.
Once more we have the dream team back together. Rabbi Leah and myself in the sanctuary for the first time in a little while, but also with Leora and Ollie and Ruth providing musical accompaniment as well, and also with the rest of the Colin clan behind the scenes, making sure that everything goes okay. Hopefully everything is okay within your little sanctuaries. Maybe you saw our thought for the week and have created your special space. Please do make sure that you take a photo of it and post it wherever you can, so that we can see all of the small sanctuaries where we're gathering this evening. So we say together,
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And if you are standing, you're welcome to be seated. We have more than a baked dinner of rabbis with us this evening, as well as ourselves. I'm sure that Dad is around as well. And Rabbi Howard Berman, who is going to be preaching this evening. We're so privileged to welcome with his husband, Stephen. How fantastic. More of that later. But for now, let us continue by welcoming in the Sabbath.
Happy is the people by whom the Sabbath is sanctified. Happy are those who rejoice in its blessing, for it comes with a message of God's abiding love, as one who brings good tidings and publishes peace.
And so come, let us sing to the Eternal One.
as we welcome Shabbat into our midst, we welcome all of you from wherever you are watching. And it's really wonderful to see so many of our regulars posting already. Whether you are a regular or not, let us know that you're watching. Wish us and each other Shabbat Shalom, and let us know from where you're watching so that we can truly feel all the many different places that our sanctuary extends to. And so we turn to Lecha Dodi for welcoming the Sabbath bride.
Lecha, lecha dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha, lecha dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo b'zachor, b'diborecha lishmianu, el hamiuchad Adonai echad.
Would you please rise?
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam.
Praise be the one to whom our praise is due.
We praise the Eternal One, to whom our praise is due forever. Please be seated. And when you are, let us join our voices together. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in their courses in the sky.
You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You make day pass and bring on the night, and separate day from night. You rule the hosts of heaven. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening fall.
Torah
Would you please write?
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
אני אדוני, אני אדוני, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אני אדוני, אני אדוני, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיתם להשם לאלוהים. אני אדוני, אני אדוני, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אני אדוני, אני אדוני, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני, אני אדוני, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אני אדוני, אני אדוני, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please be seated.
All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, eternal one, are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly we accepted your rule. Then, full of joy, we sang together.
כמוך בנים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, לא רע תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה
ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, בעמידנו מכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, בעמידנו מכנו לחיים.
Grant, eternal God, that we may lie down in peace, and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are our guardian and deliverer, a gracious and merciful God. Guard our going out and our coming in, that now and always we may have life and peace.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'yakov, yoshvei
I'd like to stand then, please do.
אתה אדוני אלוהינו Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, זוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל.
אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי המוח בגבורות ומי דומה
להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, ואין לנו אלוה מבלעדיך. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
If it is your classical, liberal, or reformed tradition to be seated at this moment in time, you'll find out why that was appropriate later on. Then please be seated.
שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל.
Continue reading together. God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight.
In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, eternal one, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Ritzei Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
ba'amcha
ba'amcha
Yisrael.
Yisrael. ותפילתם באהבה תקבל. ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, שאותך לבדך, וירא נעבוד.
We continue.
מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך, שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
ברוך אתה אדוני,
עושה השלום.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי.
if you weren't classically liberal or reform, then please be seated. This evening, as I mentioned, we're honoured and delighted to welcome Rabbi Howard Berman to preach. Howard studied at the Liabeck College in London between 1969 to 1971, and I think probably from there became a firm Anglophile, although he can tell you at Kiddush whether that happened beforehand as well. He was then ordained at Hebrew Union College in 1974. Howard served at Temple Emmanuel in New York, where most importantly, a young Goldstein family came on sabbatical in 1977 and met with Rabbi Howard Berman. Rabbi Howard led the Chicago Sinai congregation from 1982 to 2002, before moving to Boston, founding the Society for Classical Reform Judaism and the Central Reform Temple of Boston in 2004. Happily retiring in June, Rabbi Howard Berman and Stephen, his husband, spent Friday evenings zooming across Europe, from Israel through Poland, through Germany, and through these doors as well at the Ark Synagogue. We're privileged this evening to hear him preach.
Shabbat Shalom. Friends, I can't tell you how exciting and meaningful it is for me to be with you here at the Ark Synagogue this evening, and how grateful I am to Rabbi Aaron for his warm invitation to speak with you. This is a further milestone along a path of close friendship between myself and the Goldstein family, and by extension, this congregation, that extends back over 53 years. Andrew, Sharon, and I have shared our lives and commitments to the liberal Jewish tradition since our long ago student days at Liabeck College. And through the years, I have proudly watched Aaron become the dynamic spiritual leader he is today. I'd love to recount some of the highlights of this journey together, but our time is brief, and perhaps we'll have some other opportunity to reminisce in the future. Aaron has asked me to share some observations regarding the current issues facing the American Jewish community as we all continue to confront the unprecedented challenges and the unforeseen opportunities that have come out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, the majority of us and the priority for all of us is acknowledging the suffering and grief that millions around the world have endured, and the many spiritual challenges that we have all struggled with as we have confronted the immense losses of life, of professional endeavors, and financial security. With that as the constant background, I do want to share some of the other levels of impact regarding the radical transformation the pandemic has caused in our religious, social, and communal lives. I also want to share some reflections on the two other major forces that have shaped American Jewish life over the past year: the political turmoil that has traumatized and divided our nation, and the long overdue reckoning with racial injustice that has blazed forth in urgency in this country. Now, obviously, we cannot aspire to a thorough analysis of these three complex challenges, but I do hope that enumerating them with some context will prove helpful for your understanding of what we fellow Jews are facing on the other side of the pond. The sudden onslaught of the pandemic, virtually 1 incomprehensible year ago this week has totally transformed our religious lives and institutions here, just as it has for you in the UK. The shutdown of public worship, social gatherings, and educational programs was at first a shock, with no clear path forward. And then, miraculously, it seems to me, we all discovered how technology could open doors to spiritual experience and community that many of us, particularly low-tech Luddites like myself, had never imagined. We all were called to quickly master the techniques and culture of online communication and social media, creating new virtual approaches and tools for participatory worship and learning, and perhaps most importantly, providing connection and support to one another in the face of enforced isolation and loneliness. It is remarkable how the religious community has risen to these challenges in amazingly creative and effective ways, which have ended up reaching and embracing many more individuals than we ever accommodated in our physical sanctuaries. It is abundantly clear that all religious life in the 21st century from here on in will be permanently transformed by the disruption that the pandemic has caused in the conventional, accepted strategies and mechanisms with which synagogues and churches have operated. All of our long-standing assumptions about the nature of public prayer, liturgy and music, congregational organization and funding, the function of physical spaces and facilities, the nature of educational and social programming, and even the very meaning of synagogue affiliation and identity, all will be forever altered in ways we have yet to comprehend. What is clear is that the mandate to boldly envision and nurture creative new experiences of Jewish life and connection, which you here at the Ark are already experimenting with, will clearly be the new mandate for all religious institutions that seek to remain viable and relevant in the new normal of the future. Now for us here in America, the pandemic has competed and many would argue was driven with the political upheaval of the past year, indeed the past 4 years, with the venal, corrupt tyranny of the Trump administration and its empowering of bigotry and extremism. Rabbis and Jewish leaders have been placed in the often difficult position of balancing our prophetic mandate of political critique and moral dissent with the inevitable pitfalls of partisan pronouncements from the pulpit that have divided our congregations and communal agencies. I have personally publicly condemned Donald Trump in sermons since 2016 and made it clear that the issues before us were no longer a matter of mere political discourse and policy disagreement, but rather a question of the very core ethical values of American democracy. Admittedly, I have been in the enviable position of preaching to a congregation that I had personally created on the explicitly progressive spiritual and social principles I was espousing, and I was enthusiastically supported by the vast majority of our members. But many other temples and synagogues here, Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox, have been painfully divided, primarily over the priority that far too many American Jews give to the U.S. relationship with Israel, and particularly the current Israeli government, in the determination of their political commitments as American citizens. Of course, Trump has consistently exploited and manipulated this divide and has used his foreign policy on Israel for his own political gain to appease his right-wing Jewish and evangelical Christian supporters. However, ultimately, the stark reality remains that with the exception of the Orthodox minority here in the US, the American Jewish community overwhelmingly opposed and repudiated Donald Trump and his Republican Party in the recent election, with 77% of Jews voting for Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket. However, heartening as that victory was, we dare not be complacent. Enormous challenges still remain as we attempt to negotiate the dangerous and violent polarization that continues to tear our country apart. And believe me, speaking as a Floridian, few of us take any joy in the impending possibility of our first Jewish governor being Ivanka Trump. Finally, it is imperative that we reflect also upon the impact of the searing racial conflict that has intensified here in the US over the past year. American Jews, like all of our fellow citizens, have been compelled to openly and honestly confront our own participation and culpability in the systemic racism that pervades our society. The series of deaths of Black citizens at the hands of law enforcement has been the motivating crisis. But we know that racial inequality reaches into every dark corner of our national psyche and every aspect of our life and culture. For us as Jews, two major issues have emerged with urgency. One is the confrontation with the ambivalence of many of our people regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, both as an ideology and as a strategy for activism and protest. We have constantly had to engage in the debate with those who appeal to the all lives matter argument. And yet, it is so clear to many of us that this debate is identical to the struggle we Jews have had to endure for a generation, as we have claimed the uniqueness of the Jewish experience of the Shoah within the broader context of the tragic suffering loss of millions of other innocent lives in the Second World War. So many Holocaust deniers and defensive governments with dark histories of collaboration have used the all lives matter rationale to diminish and erase the unique Jewish experience of the Holocaust. If we expect the world to acknowledge and understand the distinctive meaning of the Shoah, We as Jews must be equally and forcefully sensitive as we confront the enduring legacy of America's original sin of slavery and the unique experience of oppression and suffering of African Americans. In addition, we have also been compelled to face the internal racism within the Jewish community regarding the struggles of tens of thousands of Jews of color in our families and congregations. They have faced invisibility and isolation, discrimination and condescension within our community and our institutions for far too long. There have now emerged vigorous and forceful new voices of Black, Hispanic, Asian, and Pacific Islander Jews, both converts, Jews by choice, and the children of interfaith families, who are now coming forward, gathering together, telling their stories, and demanding recognition of the authenticity of their multicultural Jewish identities. And so I hope that this necessarily brief overview offers you some background for your own reflection on the parallels and contrasts between the American and Anglo-Jewish experience at this critical moment in history. I suspect that you will agree that the parallels surpass the differences. Friends, this is indeed a time of great upheaval and immense transformation that will lead to both painful change and fruitful opportunity. Many of our old assumptions and complacencies will be challenged and overturned, calling for creative renewal and redemptive growth. As you of the Ark Synagogue continue to build and broaden your distinctive vision of new possibilities for Jewish life in Great Britain today, I am confident that with the talents and energies of your gifted rabbis, Aaron and Leah, the steadying wisdom of your beloved Rabbi Emeritus, Andrew and Sharon, and the commitment of your lay leadership, you will find exciting new ways to face the future with the same faith and hope that our people have always confronted the daunting challenges and changes of the past 4,000 years, hearing God's call of life, justice, and peace, and responding together with a confident and resounding Hineni, here we stand.
Here we stand, and this evening, just as Rabbi Howard has probably gone on a journey from Israel through Europe to here, and I'm sure other places later on, and hopefully will join us from Florida at Kiddush, we have been surely in safe hands this evening on the journey that Rabbi Howard Berman has taken us on. And so I say on behalf of all of us, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechalak mechochmato li'rei'av. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for you impart your wisdom to those who revere you. And let us all say,
Amen.
Amen.
So we turn to our concluding prayers, but do keep the comments coming. Do encourage you. I'm sure Rabbi Howard Berman will be able to read the comments in the chat. So do keep the wonderful compliments coming for this wonderful sermon as we turn to our closing prayers. And if there are names that you're remembering at this time, recent deaths or deaths at this time in years gone by, then do please feel free to put those in the chat as well so that they get to us before Kaddish. But for now, we turn to Baruch Adonai. Baruch Adonai leolam,
Amen va'amen.
Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael oseh niflaot levado, ubaruch Shem kevodo leolam v'yimaleh kevodo et kol haaretz. Amen va'amen.
The eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day the eternal God shall be one, and known to be one. May your love, O God, rest upon us as we rest our hope in you. All the nations that you have made shall come and bow down before you and honour your name.
Let God be praised by day.
Let God be praised by night.
Let God be praised when we lie down.
Let God be praised. Rise up.
Avinu Shabashamayim, our God in heaven, let your unity be acknowledged and your sovereignty established forever. Reign over us now and always.
Adonai Melech Adonai Malach Adonai Imloch Leolam
We remember those who died in recent days, and those who died at this time of the year, in years gone by. Alice Stralish, a mother of Jill Ter Hovhanessian. Alan Heyman, the father of Sue Frace. Donna Hyman's friend of Ark Synagogue. Lily Wood, the mother of Angela Freed. Lionel Henry Weiser, the father of Susan Minton. And Shirley Mablin, the grandmother of Katie Bain, mother of Graham.
Paul Custo is remembering his cousin Miriam Waterman, and Tanos Schlam is remembering Sandra David.
Zechet Tzadikim Livracha. May all that was dear and good in their lives endure always as a blessing and as a continual influence for good. As together we join our voices. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chai echon v'yom echon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'galav v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mavarach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei d'kudeshav v'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran ba'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rava min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol b'nei Adam. V'imru Amen. May the Most High Source of perfect peace grant peace to us, to all Israel, to all humanity, and to all those who mourn. And together let us say,
Amen.
Please be seated if you were standing. Just a couple of brief notices before we conclude. Firstly, please do join us tomorrow morning at 9:30. All of those who have been missing our Tot Shabbat. We've only got one in February, and tomorrow is the one. So please do join us. It is one of our highlights of our Ark Synagogue repertoire.
Yes, and I can see Saga is already longing for Purim. So if anyone wants to already give us a preview of the Purim costume, I think we would be very happy to see a preview.
Amazing, and we have something
Purim
very, very
costume.
special if Richard wants to focus on his wife for a moment. Ruth is having a very special Purim party on Friday morning at 10:30 a.m., a special Heartbeats Purim party. So please look forward to that, 10:30, for all those who normally enjoy our Tot Shabbat. After that, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Is a wonderful Shabbat service. Wonderful because we're all back together.
I know.
And it's fantastic to be on song again. And also because it's Ava Phillips's bat mitzvah. We're very much looking forward to celebrating with all the Phillips family. On Tuesday, there is Hebrew as normal, but not on Thursday. So my classes and Leo's classes are postponed until the following week because it's Erev Purim. We're going up and joining Edinburgh, Leicester and Manchester communities for a fantastic Purim. You'll see all the details, but starting from 6 p.m. Let's conclude this service so we can all get together with Rabbi Howard Berman in the Zoom room to be able to chat with him, ask him any questions, and of course wish him Yesher Koach as well on a most fantastic sermon.
And if you're not sure what the link is, if you just press pause on our closing screen, you'll see the meeting ID there, and you'll be able to get into the Zoom room that way.
As well as all the tourists and all the things which Rabbi Berman pointed out are challenges in our world, there is also the positive that when we all come together and do something ourselves, we can make a difference. It's not your duty to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. No, so let's join together in a very positive, also in a positive key, which is unusual for a closing song in any kind of Ashkenazi kind of community. So here we go. Shabbat Shalom to you all. And now join us together with Rabbi Howard Berman for Kiddush.
ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר השכר, ואמונתך ולזמר